Welcome to New Life Live with Stephen Arterburn. For 35 years, New Life has been transforming lives one at a time thanks to the giving hearts of you, our listeners. Our goal is to provide you with wisdom from God's Word to give you hope and help in life's hardest places. If you have a question you'd like to ask today, our phone lines are open. Call 1-800-229-3000. That number again is 1-800-229-3000. Now here's today's host, Chris Williams.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. New Life listeners, family, friends, all a part of what we do. Or if you're listening for the first time, welcome. We love having you. Yep. Mm-hmm. And I have in studio with me the incredible Dr. Sheri Keffer.
Aww.
With your, what I love about Sheri is this, is there are very few people in today's world that are head over heels for their own craft and that will learn and grow and just push and push and push to get the best out of themselves and the people that they work with. And that is you, Dr. Sheri.
Aww,
and so with that, there is more wisdom that we need from you that you can share with us. So what is that today? What do you have for us?
Well, what's funny is you say that, but I go, really, I think I have a very simple mind. I do have a very simple mind. I have to see things and I'm visual. So I want to share with us all today. And if you're watching on YouTube, great. You're going to see some fun things. If you're not and you're listening, that's fine, because I'm going to paint a picture for you. But I started asking the Lord when it came to trauma and understanding what happens to our brain and body. I think a lot of people get scared of our own bodies.
Yeah.
Things are going on and we don't know, we don't understand. And then somebody comes to us and they start talking about the brain and it's like, wah, 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 wah. You know, it's
like science class overwhelming really quickly.
It is. And we're already overwhelmed. So the last thing we need is something, you know, that has weird names to it. But so I asked the Lord, I said, would you help me come up with a way to describe the brain? And so I started looking at basic brain parts. And then, you know, they talked about the lizard brain. And I'm like, we are not lizards. We have not come from reptiles. We are people that have been created by God. But so then instead of that, I thought about, you also see the primal brain.
Yeah.
So here is my triune counsel. This is what I came up with. Thank you, Lord, for a way of describing it. And the triune counsel are basically three parts. There's our primal brain, which I call UG. UG is the thug with the club. UG is basically just reacting out of those instincts. And UG's number one goal is to try to keep you alive. And so he reigns supreme. He stands in the center. And then to his left is Amy. And Amy is the amygdala. The amygdala holds the highly charged emotional memories that happen to us. And then on UG's right, it is the CEO, who is the boss of the brain. Now, each one of these people, brain parts, are an important part of functioning, and especially when there's a trigger. Now, when everything is working great, the brain's working great, then, you know, it's kind of like all the brain parts are in a spa, and they're just relaxed and doing what they need to do. But when we get triggered, when something happens, there's a vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is it's a part of us that starts right in the cranium, and it goes all the way down to our intestines. When we're just doing life, it's like the CEO, our boss, is driving the car. Amy's sitting on the right-hand side, and she's just having fun, talking on the phone. Woohoo! And then UG is in the back seat. But when we get triggered, the wheels come off the bus.
Yeah.
And UG jumps into the front seat. Amy's like, help me, help me. And then the CEO is barely hanging on. Triggers are real. And we can, in seeing our brain and beginning to love our brain and understanding that these are just parts of our brain that need to be loved and cared for, UG is what we call bottom-up regulation.
Yeah.
When we get into our body and try to calm UG down. So we'll talk
important.
more
Yeah, we'll
throughout
talk
the show,
more about that. If you want to see the visuals, go to our YouTube.
Yeah.
And we'll be right back right after this.
My husband was involved with pornography addiction.
He was unfaithful. He stepped out on the marriage and ended up having a child.
The Restore Intensive is designed for a woman dealing with a man's sexual addiction issues.
There were strip clubs.
My husband is a recovering sex addict.
If you've been affected by betrayal, an emotional or a physical affair, or pornography, the Restore Intensive will equip you with support and tools to help you through.
Restore has empowered me and has given me the tools to work through my anger, work through my pain, work through my confusion, and help me realize that I am worthy.
Being here and being surrounded by people who get it has given me my power back.
The Restore Intensive is coming to Dallas, Texas, July 12th through the 14th. Register online at newlife.com or call 1-800-NEW-LIFE and use the discount code NLL to save $50.
Thank you, Restore. You have changed my life forever.
1-800-NEWLIFE and the discount code NLL. To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live.
I'm Steve Arterburn with a New Life Moment. Adam and Eve's fall, when they took the bite of that apple, wasn't like falling off a stepladder. It was like falling off Mount Everest. It was mankind's fall, and we weren't just dented, we were demolished. Once we realized that all of our thoughts and desires were twisted and all of our strength was diverted away from God, then we'll begin realizing how dangerous it is to rely solely on our own strength and desire and wisdom. Human strength fails when you don't see any results. Human motivation ends when applause and affirmation fade. And human wisdom tells us to get ahead and then quit. But God's strength becomes perfect when we're weak. His approval comes when we stop trying to please the crowd, and His wisdom tells us to stop trying to lead the way and to follow Him instead. I'm Steve Arterburn. God's grace is greater than our ability to mess up. Come visit me at newlife.com, and thanks for listening to this New Life Moment.
That was, again, another great reminder from Steve, and human wisdom versus godly wisdom. Mm-hmm. And man, is there a difference.
Big difference.
Yeah. I'll never forget diving into recovery and realizing third step is I made a decision to turn my life and my will over to the care of God as I understand Him. Sat in front of my sponsor and I said, "Hey man, I've been to seminary, I've been in the church most of my life, I know most of the Bible, if not all of it. I'm good here." And to which he said, "You wouldn't be sitting in front of me if you were good here." I'm like, touche.
Nice.
And wow, did I have to weed out a lot of my own broken understandings and wills and desires and lean much more into God. And I said I had to. I still have to, obviously, today and every day. So such a good reminder. Yeah.
Wow.
All right, we're going to jump into the phone. We're going to go to Dan, listening in Silver Springs, Maryland on WAVA, one of our favorite sister stations, partner stations. So, Dan, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Thanks.
All right, talk to us. What's going on today?
Yeah, hey, your intro was kind of perfect for what I was going to ask you guys about, because I've actually run into counselors who didn't try to be good at their craft, and they didn't even believe in trauma. And it never occurred to me that I could get bad counsel. And I didn't realize there's this big divide in the counseling world between biblical counselors and Christian counselors. But just, a long story short is, like, I never knew what trauma was. I didn't have any, just personally, I grew up in not a perfect family, but we just didn't have trauma. My mom and dad were married. We had a normal childhood, but I married my wife, and she seemed normal and great, but she had several instances of severe childhood trauma, and when things went south, we sought counsel, and they didn't ask anything. And this is we've gone to several biblical counselors, and they didn't ask anything about her background. And then when I sought other counsel from a Christian counselor, as a matter of fact, it was recommended through this network. She even asked, "Hey, what is your wife doing?" And I said, "Oh, she's going to a biblical counselor." And she said, "Yeah, that's not going to get it done." And then just like I don't want to paint too broad a brush, but it does seem pretty definitive that I'm finding out, where they just simply, they don't think there is such a, like, they think once you're, a Christian, you're fine in Christ. There's not really, depression is just a sin that you have. It's not related to any trauma. And so maybe, this isn't just for me, but I want to make sure people out there maybe have good questions to ask about, when you do see a counselor. Again, it never occurred to me that I could get bad counsel, or, and I think at least in the biblical counseling world, you don't have to have, so many hours of experience. You can just go online and get a certificate, and a pastor can call themselves a biblical counselor. So, I don't want to paint with too broad a brush, but I'm just saying that's a big divide. And again, I never went to a biblical counselor. They asked about our history. As a matter of fact, when we did try going to a Christian counselor and they asked my wife about her history, she would not go there. She just refused to go there.
Wow.
I think in part that because everyone else said no, that's your past is behind you. And again, they never even asked about her past. And again, she had. Yeah.
Well, here's Dan. I just got to jump in. Here's the irony of that. Yeah. You know what the irony of that? You know what the Bible says?
Yeah.
The sins of the fathers are passed down to 10 generations.
Well, yeah, that's kind of ironic because the sins that my dad were through her father.
Well, and that's part of it as well. But the thing that I just want to mention, this is for all of us out there. How I show up today has a long backstory that's formative. And this is and why I'm so adamant about this right now, because this applies to our marriage. My wife doesn't show up today as some sort of fully evolved person today because she was baptized a while ago. She's a person in process just like the rest of us. And how that process, good or bad, painful or healing it's been, forms who she is and what she is today. My job is to get to know the previous chapters so I can more fully understand the chapter that I'm reading today. Most importantly, not with her, but especially with myself. God tells us in stories, this led to this, this led to that, this led to this. That's the thing that's kind of most ironic about what we call biblical counseling. So that's my little side story. But Dan, is there a question for us today that we can help you with?
Well, yeah, so it has to be frustrating for counselors to know that there's bad counselors. So I just want to, see if that, holds true with you guys, because you guys have, probably experienced a lot more from call-in shows or your just experience. I'm not, I have my world and other men like me that have been in similar situations, but it's just my experience. But again, I kind of gravitate to your point. The worst thing, it's really hard to help somebody if other people have said, no, you're fine.
Yeah,
right?
For sure.
They have trauma
for sure.
That they dealt with.
Dan, I think about the passage of Scripture, and let me just use a biblical verse, right, to those that think that biblical counseling is everything. It's Jeremiah 6:14, and it says, they offer superficial treatments for my people's mortal wounds. They give assurances of peace when there is no peace. So when our past, Dan, is leaking into the present, it's not in the past. Mm-hmm. It's actually in the present, and it needs to be worked on. Those mortal wounds. I know. I grew up with a mom who was mentally ill, severely mentally ill. And coming out of that family where it was very disconnected, still is, sadly, and a dad that enabled that to happen, I grew up, and in a sense, I grew up with issues. I already brought issues. I was in a crock pot that was not a healthy crock pot. Mm-hmm. And those issues leaked into my first marriage. I had mortal wounding. And your precious wife, right? If she has had some painful things and some traumas, this superficial work isn't going to help. And part of Amy, the amygdala, remember I was talking about her, she's the limbic system. We are body, soul, mind, and spirit. And so as I understand the physiological part, the science behind how God made us, how he made our mind. I mean, Amy, the amygdala helps us relate to people in our world. And she holds those highly charged emotional memories, both good and bad. So if I've had bad things happen to me, I may have issues with people if I don't get some help. She expresses emotions such as anger, fear, guilt, anxiety, and she sounds the alarm if something isn't going well. If Amy ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. So she kind of locks arms with Ugg, and it can be off to the races. If somebody has trauma and they're triggered, then it can create a disruption in your marriage. And so unless I'm wondering about Amy holds those negative shame beliefs that I'm not good enough and I can't trust anyone, or I'm not in control, or many others. And so I have to begin to heal and listen to history in order to know how those wounds got wired in and what's leaking into the present. And I just hear you, Dan. It's like you're saying we were missed. There was things that are still missed because of not getting deeper help.
Yeah.
Yeah. So even when I put forward to, when I simply put forward the things that other counselors were telling me to some pastors who were claimed to be biblical counselors, they simply say, and I point those out, hey, I think my wife is being triggered. They say I'm gaslighting. But so I guess to simplify
what confusing.
Yeah.
And that's treatment trauma.
Yeah,
that's
it really
treatment trauma in and of itself.
Yeah.
You weren't gaslighting. I had somebody tell me that their pastor told them that when they're triggered, it's sin. It's sin to be triggered. And I said, no. Actually, that is a physiological thing. Your trauma's been stored in your body. Something came close enough to your body to remind you of that event. And those can be healed.
Yeah.
With some right help, with some right therapy. So I appreciate your insight today to just have the conversation.
Yeah, and to know that, going back to superficial treatment will not take care of mortal wounds. One of the things that is very dangerous in our field, and I think it's in many fields, is I'll say it like this, a lack of humility. Humility says, here's what I'm good at, and here's what I'm not so good at. Here's what I treat, here's what I don't treat. And so I'm not, as a therapist, a cure-all for everyone. I'm not a help for everyone. That is absolutely true. Part of my professional responsibility is to know when I'm outside, we call it a scope, when I'm outside of my scope. But I'd say when I'm outside of my element, And I've had some cases recently. I'm like, I'm outside of my element here. And even if my client still wants to see me, I have to be true to what I know, and even more importantly, true to what I don't know. And so this is really important because I think in our world today, we have a lot of different options, of help and helpful treatments or courses out there.
What's your question, Dan? Did we get
so if I could ask one question, I'd be like, what could I, so my wife and these counselors, my wife thinks she is fine. Like she said, the problem is me when I wish the problem was me because then I can fix me. But what do you say to either my wife or these counselors when they, I feel terrible. My wife could be helped and she's not being helped because she has been convinced that she's okay.
Okay, so Dan, here's what. Dan, here's what I would do. I would acknowledge her in saying there might be something wrong with me. There very well could be. I just don't fully trust that these people that you're going to are the best option for us because I can't see it from their perspective. Let us together find a good couples licensed therapist, a licensed therapist that is an expert in couples work to help us see and figure out what's going on between us.
Well, that'd be great. She now considers what I, they've separated us. So they said, we're not going to counsel you together. Because they're considering me abusive because she's being triggered. So just my
yeah, it's a high level of control going on there.
It's so scary.
Yeah, that is scary.
It's really scary, Dan, because your marriage is at stake here.
Yeah.
And it just feels like she's being indoctrinated instead of moved closer towards you. Books that you might consider, How We Love, might be something she might be open to reading.
Yeah.
The Henry's book on trust, Dr. Henry Cloud might be, I don't know if we can send them that. You'll see that Drs. Henry Cloud and John Townsend they're biblicists, but they're also bringing in the beautiful fabric of relationships. So
we're going to send you a copy of How We Love to be a really good starting point. And I'd love for her to go. You guys go to Intimacy and Marriage in July, so check that out as well.
When you give to the New Life Scholarship Fund, you're giving someone hope for a brighter future.
I was kind of in the closet and hid with my struggle. Your donation really made the difference, especially in my situation, because I would have getting laid off from my job.
At the New Life Intensives, hurting people are able to begin a new path towards healing and freedom that has an effect on all of those around them.
I think the people who support New Life financially are people that I'll never know. You know, I'll never be able to thank them personally for the gift that they gave to us. Their giving saved me, my husband, and our family from being torn apart.
To help hurting people to connect to the help they need, make your gift to the Scholarship Fund at newlife.com or by calling 1-800-NEW-LIFE and specifying scholarships.
Someone called and sponsored me to come this weekend. Whoever that is, just know that you saved a life. Literally, you saved my life.
1-800-NEW-LIFE.
I was sort of vaguely familiar that the 12 steps had some origination in the Bible. I found life recovery, and one of the things I liked so much was that it had such a broad appeal. It wasn't limited to just alcohol or drugs, that it was addressing a wide range of problems.
At New Life, we believe everyone can benefit from a life recovery experience. There are life recovery groups all over the country. They take place online, in conference calls, and in person. And if there isn't one in your area, we can help you start one. We have startup materials, leaders' guides, CDs, Bibles, and more, all with discounts available for groups. Call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE and ask for Terry Ward. The 12 Steps have long been a great help to people in recovery because much of the 12 Steps' power comes from the fact that they capture principles clearly revealed in the Bible.
The 12 Steps is really a pattern for all of us as Christians.
Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433. We'd love to hear from you. If you have a question or a comment, call toll-free 1-800-229-3000. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back to New Life Live. Chris Williams with Dr. Sheri Keffer. Hey, just before the break, I had mentioned to Dan Intimacy and Marriage Workshop. Our next one is coming up July 2nd and 26th. I'll get the next number in there. July 26th in Washington, D.C. And the truth of the matter is whether your marriage is in crisis or whether it needs a jump start or a booster, this is the place. We don't have to settle for mediocre marriages. And we certainly don't have to settle for miserable marriages. And Sheri, you had mentioned that we all have blind spots, you know? Mm-hmm. And so I'll tell you what, the time that I've spent in, in intimacy in marriage and also in marital counseling is like, wow, these blind spots at first can be kind of embarrassing or hard to see, sometimes even painful. But man, to get on the other side of them and to also not be afraid of them anymore.
Yeah.
And just say, this makes me human. Intimacy and Marriage and Workshop is the place for your marriage. And so check that out. Go to www.newlife.com. All the information.
I would love Dan and his wife to go. I think that would be such a lovely equalizer if they could just get there.
Absolutely.
I mean, if she could feel safe enough to jump into that.
Yeah. And if you're wondering if this is for you, there's a short quiz that we have online at newlife.com to assess your marital health. And they'll kind of help like, hey, this this is some areas that we may need improvement on, and this will help us tremendously.
Nice.
So with that, we're going to go to Lisa, listening in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania on WFIL, another great partner station. So Lisa, are you there?
I'm here.
Awesome. Talk to us. What's going on today?
I am feeling bad about how I am responding to my daughter and her mental instability. Like she has all the signs of and is saying that she is depressed, and has all those signs. So I believe her, but I just can't empathize with her. I really can't give her I haven't been able. I go at her like I'm angry with her, and I'm looking for ways to be more compassionate, because I don't want to make it worse, obviously.
Yeah.
But I don't understand it either, because I know her life. I know that I've sacrificed from the day her and her brother were born. I know that we've given them way too much and spoiled them. So I can't grasp how she has gotten to this point, and therefore I know that I'm not as compassionate or supportive as I probably need to be for her to get through it.
Yeah.
So I'm looking for help.
Well, I love that you called in for that, because we talked about blind spots, and you're not being blind to the fact that your reaction to your daughter, it can be more damaging than helpful, and you don't like it in you. And that is great self-awareness. So thank you so much. That's being a good mom right there. So
thank you.
Let me ask you this, one quick question before I hand this over to Sheri. What does her depression mean about you? What's the meaning you give it about yourself? She's depressed because I am fill in the blank.
That I am not a good mother, that I failed her and her brother. We believe we being my husband and I were raised with tough love, and so that's how I've been responding to her. But we both of us lost our parents when we were in our teens. We're now in our 50s, and it's my prayer has always been to be what she needed, to be that resource I didn't have or we didn't have when we grew up. And I've given her everything, but I think in that I've failed her.
Okay, so just stay there for a moment. I'm going to go one level deeper. I want you to stay in your body. I want you to notice your body between your chin and your belly button, as if there's a straight line there. When that belief inside of you that says, I have failed as a mom, shows up, where in your body do you feel that?
In my heart and my gut.
Okay. Heart and gut. Okay, good. On a scale of 0 to 10, 10 being like the most intense you would ever feel it, how much do you feel that today?
I would say a 7 or 8, and talking about it is probably at its highest. Talking about it.
Yeah. And as a side note, Lisa, now you see why people can be resistant to therapy, because when you talk about it, it brings it up. But we're going to help move you through that. So I'm going to hand this over to Sheri. Sheri, what do you think here?
So before we go, what's your question? Because I want to make sure. Did you give us a question? I want to make sure we answer what you want today.
How can I respond to her instead of trying to push her through? I guess, how can I hold her hand through what she's going through? How can I be more compassionate or more understanding when I'm not really understanding or compassionate to her situation?
Perfect.
I'm more angry.
Yeah.
I'm like, how can you be there when all that we've done for you?
Yeah.
So,
good.
Perfect.
So, Lisa, you hear the music. We're going to head to a break. We're going to come right after break, and we're going to tackle this together with you. We're going to get to the other side of this thing. For the rest of us, as we head into summer, make sure that you have downloaded the New Life app. It's the easiest way to listen to us live. You can listen to us later. It is incredibly convenient. Wherever you are, however you are, you can access both the show and our workshops and all the information that we're here to help you with. And with that, we're going to be back right after this.
Hi, this is Steve Arterburn, and for over 34 years, New Life has been the most trusted name in Christian counseling.
I'm an addict, and I'm trying to get God in my life again.
Our Christ-centered treatment programs can help you break free to embrace all that God has for your life and your family.
I just want to thank you guys for bringing me to a relationship with Jesus.
There really is help for marital problems, depression, addictions, panic attacks, and feelings of hopelessness.
I came back with so many tools to help me prepare myself to fight this struggle and this battle that I have every day.
You can start living again today, living the life God intended for you. Help is available at 1-800-NEW-LIFE.
They did care, and they did follow up very lovingly, and it made all the difference in my life.
Call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Someone who cares is waiting at the other end of the phone. God can open the door to a better tomorrow. Call 1-800-639-5433.
Club New Life changes lives.
I think I go way back to listening to New Life, learning so much from it, and then becoming a Club New Life member.
Club New Life is a monthly giving family that helps New Life Ministries provide Christ-centered hope and counseling resources to thousands of people.
You know, I'm so thankful because you know why I keep giving? Because I keep learning, and I'm so thankful for all the lives that you touch every day and the people's lives. So when I get to still hear the radio show, it's just so encouraging to my heart.
When you sign up to support us monthly through Club New Life, you'll make a difference in the lives of individuals and families with godly counsel and connection to help.
And you know one reason I give? Because I feel like sometimes I'm hiding behind a counselor's couch, listening to all this great information and not paying. So my guilt of this great advice is alleviated by being a Club New Life member.
Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433. And together we can help hurting people find help and hope in life's hardest places. Call 1-800-639-5433 to join Club New Life today. We're glad you joined us for New Life Live. To be a part of the program, call 1-800-229-3000. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back to New Life Live. Chris Williams here with Dr. Sheri Keffer, and we have Lisa on the line talking to her about her daughter who's struggling with depression, and Lisa who's struggling with her reaction to her daughter's depression. So we kind of uncovered some things before the break, and that is, man, this is triggering a lot of things going on inside of Lisa. So, Sheri, where do we go from here?
We were just saying, Lisa, how insightful you are, and Chris and I would love to spend some time with you and see right here on this show if we can't help you make a mind shift. Kind of do what Dan was talking about earlier. Just take some truth and bring it forward. Now, when you said to Chris, he did a great job of just kind of unzipping the issue, which was because I failed her as a mom. How do you hear that in your head? You told us what you think is the problem. How do you hear that? What's the negative belief about yourself in light of your daughter's depression? Like an I am statement. Or I have.
I have failed.
I failed. I have failed. Now, I love the Apostle Paul. He is the first mind coach that we ever had in the Bible, because he says what? It matters what we think. So I have failed. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to do a 180-degree turnaround. I talk about this in my book, 180-degree turnaround. If the negative belief is I have failed, what's the opposite? What would you like to believe about yourself? If you did a 180-degree turn, what's the very opposite?
That I have succeeded, that I am a good mom.
Okay, right. But can we always... Okay, so I'm a good mom, and I've succeeded, right, in raising our daughter. Now, let me tweak it a little bit. What happens when our kids are struggling? Is it harder to say I've succeeded?
Yes.
Okay.
Definitely.
But you're a good mom. You provided a lot for her, right? Loved her.
Mm-hmm.
So what if we tweaked it just a little bit and you had the opposite be, I'm a good mom. I did the best I could. What do you think about that?
I do think that's true.
Okay.
I really did.
But I do think that's true. But what's blocking you? What's in the way of you owning that belief 100%? I'm a good mom and I did the best I could.
How she is feeling, how she's now depressed, and like, so I must have done something wrong, not done something or done something wrong or whatever. So
right, but you know what you're doing? You're making yourself the reason for her depression. You're in the way.
Mm-hmm.
You're actually in the way right now of being able to sit with your daughter because your shame, it's shame. This is a shame pop-up. I have failed is shame. Shame is the culprit of all chaos. It is the culprit of all chaos. And when we believe something, that's why the Apostle Paul said, hey, it matters what we think. If I am in the middle of that shame pop-up and I feel like, well, it is me. I must have done something wrong. My daughter's depressed. Do you know that someone's depression can be a genetic thing?
Yes.
Okay. Is there anybody in your history or your husband's family of history that struggled with depression?
His mother.
Okay. Yes. All right. Now, we don't have to make your daughter his mother, right? But that very genetic component of somebody's brain, when we're born into this world, you know what's so weird is it's almost like Christmas cookies. We don't think about, we look at the picture of our baby and we see them as they grow up and we say, oh, she's got your ears, my eyes, our hands, she's got an innie belly button, I have an outie, whatever. And we look at the outside of our kids, but we don't consider that organs inside are also a part of what we get in the goo of being created. Now, she could have gotten that genetic component. And so you might be taking on the shame of somebody else's depression struggle that could be genetic. And that shame and your belief that you're a failure might be keeping you from just being present with her.
Yeah.
You're fighting your own shame instead of realizing you're a good mom, you did the best you could, and your daughter's struggling with depression. Now, it could be genetic.
Well, yeah.
Or it could be Amy, the amygdala. When we have events in our life, the amygdala, we have events that have been painful. It could be a breakup. It could be something that happened that you don't know about, happened with your daughter that she still has not brought forward. It could be a trauma event, and that wires in a negative belief that I'm not safe, I'm not in control, I'm not capable, I'm not good enough. Who knows what it is? Those negative shame beliefs feed depression, and that's why therapy can be really a lovely intervention, or psychotropic medications, or supplements.
Yeah.
There's so many things to treat depression, but your ability to sit with her means you've got to get out of the way and lay down your shame and start believing the truth.
Yeah. I want to address I want to address a false belief that is very common that I think sometimes is perpetuated by our own profession. I call it therapeutic legalism, rules that no one could abide by or beliefs no one could follow or live out and punished for it. What happens that behind this, Lisa, is that if I'm a good parent, my child won't struggle or suffer. Right? I can save them from the condition of being human. Nope. You're not God.
That's
We're not God. And so the idea that we have is that we think we're in control of something that we were never fundamentally in control of. Now, we hate seeing our children suffer. That's absolutely true. And we, as parents, it's instinctual to do everything we can to get them out of their suffering. But now what's happened is that because the belief of you can save your children from suffering, and if they suffer, you have failed. So now there is no tolerance for your child suffering. Because it's no longer about them, it's about you failing. So what you're doing, Sheri talked about this in a previous show about codependency. Codependency is about fixing somebody else's problem so that I feel better.
Wow. Okay.
Right? So instead, it's like, if I can keep cultivating that these two things can be absolutely true at the same time, because they are true at the same time. I am a good mom, and
I did the best I could.
I did the best I could, and my daughter struggles with depression.
Now, what does that feel like as Chris is walking you into that? To hold both of those at the same time. Both hands, your palms up, and you're holding both of those concepts. What does that feel like?
When you said it, you first said both of those things being true. I'm a good mom. I did all I could, and that was sort of the happy. But then when you said, and my daughter struggles with depression, that was kind of the letdown in my mind. You know what I mean? Like that just took me right back down again.
Okay, so that just tells us that you need to get into some deep therapeutic work. What Sheri is landing on with I have failed, that this failure message, and you told us that it's sitting in your heart and your gut, goes back a long ways and is really deep. And it's interfering in your life in some really painful ways. But friend, let me give you hope. It doesn't have to be like that. Okay?
Thank you.
All right?
Thank you.
In fact, Sheri and I did a little bit of riffing off of each other in a little bit of what's called an EMDR protocol. You get into some good EMDR therapy that
stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing.
Yeah, it can help you through this. So, Lisa, we're going to send you a copy of Take Your Life Back. And we're also going to, I want you to stay in line because we want to get you connected to a good therapist, maybe an EMDR therapist in your area. You go to work on rooting out what's in your heart and your gut, and you're going to find freedom. I would even say sign up for Emotional Freedom Workshop this weekend. You know, I mean, jump on it right now. Do whatever you can, and there will be freedom and deeper connection on the other side of that. Lisa, thank you so much for calling in. We'll be right back.
We all face days where life throws us a curveball and our routines or plans get disrupted. Things we wanted to do are forced to take a backseat to the unexpected demands of the day. If you normally listen to New Life Live on a radio station, well, you might not be able to that day. And on these hectic days when you're feeling stressed or frazzled, hearing the sound of counsel given on New Life Live is just what you need to navigate the unexpected things of life.
Every time I'm troubled or I have a problem, I'll cut on New Life, and there's always something that is said that is helpful to me.
By listening, I have learned more than I can ever express about how God wants me to live.
Download the New Life app for the easiest way to listen wherever you are and at a time that's convenient for you, or watch the show on our YouTube channel. You can even subscribe to our podcast from your favorite podcast provider. You never have to miss a day of New Life. Wherever you are, we are. Daniel Grossman on coaching.
Coaches are really focused on the future and helping people to develop those skills and those strategies to help them move forward in their life. A coach really partners with you to focus on things like personal growth or health goals, spiritual growth, helping you develop in your career, or possibly strengthening your relationships, or maybe even breaking free from a negative pattern.
If you need a coach for life, your career, relationships, your health and fitness, leadership, and more, call New Life today and ask about the New Life Coaching Network. Our coaches have been screened and certified with the same intensive process we use for our network counselors.
Coaches use different techniques. Some like to use strategic questions and accountability, ultimately empowering you to take those next steps toward your goals.
Take control of your life and take action to achieve your goals. Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE and talk to us about getting a New Life coach today.
I really believe that everyone can use a coach in their corner.
1-800-NEW-LIFE. To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back to New Life Live. We are so glad that you're with us. I am so glad to be here with Dr. Sheri Keffer. And what's really cool is there is so many different ways that you can be a part of our radio program, including asking questions. So you can go online and ask a question online, and we may be able to get to it in one of our radio segments. And so we want to do that today because we have a great question from Linda, who's asking about these. We have all these different models, or what we call modalities, different ways of doing therapy. And one of those that has really gained a lot of momentum and popularity lately is one called IFS, or Internal Family Systems. And she basically says, what's your opinion of this? What's your opinion of internal family systems therapy model? She says, personally, I have not heard much of a discussion or question about IFS. It seems to be more popular and current, but is there like a Christian application, or, you know, for some of us therapists at New Life who have encountered this or come across this, what do we think of it? How do we explain it? How it may be different from others? So, Sheri, tell us a little bit about internal family systems.
Well, it's a system that was created by Richard Schwartz, right? Mm-hmm. He worked with folks and came up with bodies of like parts inside of us. Mm-hmm. There is an exile part, or mm-hmm. exile parts, which, you know, they talk about the wounds, mm-hmm. the wounds of our past, or maybe even current wounds that we're experiencing. But it's a pain part that's been kind of kept away. It needs healing. It keeps coming into the room. But when it comes in the room, when our wounds come to the surface, there's these other parts that try to keep that part, the exile part, the mm-hmm. wounded part, from having any space. Yeah. It's almost like being at a family dinner table. I kind of see IFS like sitting at a family dinner table. And if there was someone that's really sharing their sadness, even take Lisa with her daughter, mm-hmm. talking about the depression. There's something in Lisa's daughter. She's depressed, but that depression causes something to happen in Lisa. Well, in IFS, there's a manager part. Mm-hmm. The manager part is a part that is trying to fix, control, rescue, get that part to not be there. And so it's a lot about fixing and controlling and trying to manage. And then when the manager part gets really tired, because managers get tired over time when mm-hmm. they can't fix something, then the firefighter part comes out. Yeah. And the firefighter part is the part that is like, the manager part's like, I'm really tired. And the firefighter's like, okay. So that's the numbing part. Mm-hmm. That's where we begin to act out. We might drink. We might
go to our medicated and potentially addictive
whatever
devices. Yep.
That is. Yep. We might clean. We might try to do a lot of things in order to not feel what the exile is feeling. Yeah. Now, all of these parts are going on like at a family dinner table. They're kind of talking over each other, and but there's a self-leader part. Mm-hmm. And the self-leader is a part that ends up becoming like a wise listener. Mm-hmm. It doesn't try to control the other parts. It really tries to help bring resolution in the pain parts that are going on. So it offers comfort, mm-hmm. connection, care, A lot of really lovely things. I'm trying to think of, there's a book called Boundaries of the Soul by Allison, and I'll get her last name for us.
Isn't it Cook?
Yeah, Allison Cook. If you're wanting to understand IFS and boundaries, I think the best read out there is Allison Cook's book on Boundaries of the Soul.
Yeah.
And I recommend it to a ton of my clients so that they can begin to do a deeper work inside, realizing that these, parts, we all have parts inside.
Yeah, and it's true that pain and fear disintegrate us. It's actually the biblical concept behind this is very, very strong. When we see something in the Bible like "Be holy as your Father in heaven is holy," that core meaning of it, that actually comes from shalom, which is a sense of peace. But all of that points to one constant biblical concept over time, and that is wholeness or togetherness. To be integrated. We use the word integrity. It's to be integrated. And so what IFS is able to do is to see what are those parts inside of us that have become disintegrated. So especially when we struggle with behaviors that are far outside of our value system. Like, I know the right thing. I want to live in this valued area of my life, but there is this behavior, or there is this tendency, or there is this pattern that is outside of that. Well, IFS says there is a part inside of you that's showing up, and to what your illustration showed really well, jumping in the driver's seat and driving. How do we bring that to the surface and then eventually put it back in its right place? And is there a wounded child, screaming out, and the exile that's screaming out, that just jumps in the driver's seat and crashes the car? But how do we bring that to the surface and just see it and acknowledge it and then work with it to find its needs and the healing to resolve itself so it can go to its proper place in our lives?
Yeah, I think about Lisa and her call, and I imagine you're still listening, Lisa. I think about how a manager part in you might be getting triggered. And anger, right? Anger is a secondary emotion. Underneath anger, there's usually one of three things: hurt, fear, and sadness.
Yes.
And remember when you asked Lisa to hold both of those things, and she goes, well, I was fine with the belief.
The
but
positive.
Then it was like, but my daughter's struggling with depression. She goes, that took me down. Well, that's sadness.
Yes.
You might be having some feelings of sadness about your daughter's depression. You might be having some feelings of fear. What's going to happen to her? What are others going to think? And those fear and sad feelings might be prompting you to be angry instead of in the self-leader place where you could be comforting and carrying her and realizing that you're just dealing with her exile, that frustrated, stuck, wounded part that's
and I think,
depression.
Absolutely. And I think what's really important that you mentioned, Sheri, that is really goes against a lot of what we, especially as men, have been taught, is that sadness is weakness. When it's the exact opposite, is that emotional strength and resiliency is the ability to be sad when a loss occurs.
Yeah.
It's an ability to be comforted. And we have to ask ourselves, am I greater than my master who goes into the Garden of Gethsemane and it discloses to his closest friends that he is overwhelmed with sorrow? And would you just be with me? Would you be present with me? Because I can't be alone here.
Yeah.
And I mean, if Jesus is weak there, then we have a completely backwards definition. Jesus is strong as ever could be in that moment. And so we must work to reverse these lies that we've been told about our emotional life. And so, yeah.
So how would that sound for Lisa? Lisa might be able to say to her daughter, I love you. And I think there's times that I feel sad or scared when I know you're struggling with depression. That's being with.
Yes.
That's the language of being with and owning it. it's not weak, it's very strong.
Yeah. So we hope for emotional strength for you. One thing I want to mention real quickly, this is the last day of the matching gift. So anything you give today is doubled. So help partner with us for others to discover that emotional freedom we've been talking about. Sheri, thank you so much for being with me. Thank you all for being with us.
Thanks for listening. We hope this program has helped you by giving you insights for handling the challenges you face in your life. We want you to know that we're here for you, but you also need to know that New Life Live is a listener-supported ministry. To make your donation or to get any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433, or write to us at New Life Ministries, P.O. Box 1029, Lake Forest, California, 92609. Please join us again on Monday for New Life Live.
Thanks for watching today. We love helping people. I hope you sense that. And we know that there's always hope if you find the right resource. Now, if something we've said to somebody else applies to you, that's fantastic. That's what we're hoping for. But also, if you want to join us directly, you can call 1-800-229-3000 between 1 and 3 Eastern Time, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesdays. Those are the best times to get through. And while you're here on YouTube, check out these other videos that we've done to help people see where they could grow or a different path to take. And if you do that, would you give us a thumbs up on the video, and please subscribe to this channel. There are many ways that we can help you outside of the radio program, and it's very hard for some to pick up a phone and dial 1-800-NEW-LIFE. But when you do, we put you in touch with somebody who cares about you, knows all the resources out there, and they're going to find the best for you. There is no reason to struggle alone. I hope to see you tomorrow. Hope you'll invite somebody else to come and join that maybe needs just a little bit of help along the way. I'll see you next time.